justice with. A very warm welcome to all you wonderful viewers of Universal Mentors Association Digital Education Summit and Awards 2022. This is the day 2, and we are now here on the third panel of the day. It's such a wonderful feeling that we've discussed just now about being a research ready institution, and now it brings us to another important factor for a higher education institution to be. We are now going to talk about the role of assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and quality standard for a higher education institution. So a lot has been said, a lot, you know, in the past few years, per se, that in being the top universities or education institutions amongst the world, or what we should be doing to become one. uh, so we'll be pondering upon various agendas, various topics, various questions to be thinking about how we can achieve that feat at a world stage or at an Indian stage, or when we are comparing, whether it is the NAC accreditations, or being ranked the number one or the top 10 or 100 universities amongst the world. uh, One question is always that has kept in mind is it all necessary to be the top university or the top institutions across the world? Because we've all said that it is, as we all know it, for the matter of fact, it's easier getting into an MIT than getting into an IIT. So let's see and discuss with some amazing panelists that we have on the session. We have with us on this amazing panel Professor Dr. Tabrez Ahmed, who's the Vice Chancellor of GD Goenka University. We have Dr. Rana Singh, who's the Vice Chancellor and CEO of Sanskriti University. We have Dr. Devendra Pathak, who's the Vice Chancellor of Uttaranchal University. I don't think he's here yet. Dr. Sunil Rai, who's the Vice Chancellor of University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. Professor Dr. Afrozul Haq, who's the Vice Chancellor of HA University, Imphal, Manipur. And we have Ms. Afreen, who's the Assistant Director, University Engagement and Partnership from LSAC Global. And we have Professor Dr. Anil Vashisht, who's the Deputy Pro Vice Chancellor, Amity University, Madhya Pradesh. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir and ma'am, to this amazing panel discussion. We would go, to all of you one by one with our opening remarks. The the role of or how we should be, assessed or accredited or evaluated for the quality of the higher education institution. So I think we should start with Dr. Afrozul Haq.
Good afternoon, everybody. Actually, artificial intelligence is a very important part of current subjects and sciences. I started taking help of artificial intelligence 2009. Actually, when my specialty, let me tell you, that is health sciences. And for the last 15 to 20 years, I am involved in vitamin D research. As you know, that most of the people are vitamin D deficient. Currently, it has become very important and a topic of interest, as vitamin D is involved in, you name the disease, and vitamin D is involved there. Even in COVID-19, it's a very, very important, the involvement of vitamin D. So in 2009, when I started giving lectures to my students, then it was very difficult for my students to understand a process which is called the metabolism of vitamin D, how it goes in the body and how it is metabolized in different organs of the body. So then, with the help of computers, then we designed something which resemble with the actual things, like say I needed a fish, so I took a fish which is developed by a computer, which is looking like a real fish. And then the other things which I will show in my lecture, and it will be easy for you. Okay, so then as far as the higher education is concerned, artificial intelligence definitely playing a very important role in many aspects, which I will show in my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving on, can we now go to Ms. Afreen? Coming from an industry perspective and the courses that you offer, specifically when you're talking about law, what do you think is the role of, uh, assessment, specifically when you're talking about the role of, the accreditation of the university or the quality of the higher education institution?
Thank you, Sandeep. First of all, good afternoon all to the esteemed panel members. I would also like to begin by thanking Universal Mentors Association for extending this kind of invitation, for sharing our thoughts on this important topic on role of assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and quality standard in higher education. Before I begin, I would also like to state that it's a humbling experience to share the dais with such great leaders in academia. I've also had the privilege to be associated with some of the esteemed members of the panel on various fronts. And some of the members of the panel are also part of our LSAC Global Law Alliance colleges as well. And we are very proud to be associated with them. Today, I would be touching upon certain points in relation with pre-law assessment and how LSAC Global has played its role in enhancing that. As part of the legal education sector, there are various developments which have happened pre and post COVID era. Moreover, we must be aware of the different types of assessment at each stage of learning, starting from the pre-law to admissions, flowing into the legal education, and then on to the legal career. So for more than 75 years, LSAC Global and LSAC Admission Council has actually created a vibrant and a supportive ecosystem for law schools and their candidates to promote quality access and equity in law school admissions in the US as well as in India. We developed the LSAT India examination in 2009, and this specific examination, caters to students who want to sort of have an access to good quality legal education in India. When I talk about the LSAT India, it is a test of high-level reading, informal reasoning, and deductive reasoning skills. Now, these are the acquired critical thinking skills which are really essential for a law student or a law aspirant to excel in legal education. So keeping this specific background, I'll be, discussing a little more in detail about what the LSAT India is and how we are trying to, disrupt and innovate at every front. Dr. Huck, mentioned about artificial intelligence. Let me just reiterate that we at LSAC also introduced the LSAT India to be an online proctored examination in 2020. And this was one of the first mover advantage we have when we started off in 2020. And this particular examination is an AI-enabled remotely proctored exam. That means the student can appear for the specific examination in the safety of their homes. So these are a few examples I wanted to share as opening remarks. I would like to pause here and we'll take up some questions in the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Afreen. Dr. Rana, your thoughts on the topic?
A very warm good afternoon to one and all. It's indeed a lovely topic, role of assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and quality standard in higher education. Well, we all know that the various regulatory bodies and the accreditation bodies in the country, particularly NAC and NBA, they have been working phenomenally in this direction. And a major emphasis has been in terms of ensuring the qualitative and quantitative dimension of assessment and evaluation. The first and the foremost dimension is whether the assessment and evaluation has been done as per schedule without any delay. That's first part of it. To what extent there has been the optimal balance of the assessment types, like the formative and summative assessments, then what has been the overall quality of formative and summative assessments? Well, I would like to talk about a small example which I and we as colleagues were using in UAE. There was a US-based body and organization called ExamSoft, and we were using the examination software. This was an online examination software, which helped us in giving the correct. First of all, the exams used to be transparent. So transparency in the sense, even the paper setter or somebody from the IT department could never guess which is going to be the question coming to the students. So there was absolute transparency in the question paper, because the teachers, the faculty members, or the question paper setters, they were required to put all the kinds of question papers in the question bank, and then the questions were picked on the basis of random basis. So there was absolute transparency. That was one. Second was in terms of the report which was being generated by the software was amazingly inspiring, as it used to give the quality not just in terms of the overall assessment report, but it also gave the report to the faculty members as to what has been the percentage of questions attempted. Now, question number one, it was attempted by 92%, out of which 78% could get it right. So there was absolute report to all the faculty colleagues in terms of what has been the level of difficulty, or we call it as difficulty index of a particular question. And more so, it has also been important to understand that, yes, it used to give statistical reports like difficulty index, point by serial coefficient, and so on and so forth. So yes, now we are in the pandemic era, we are moving towards more of online examination, remote proctored examination. So a lot of emphasis is being given by the university examining bodies, as well as the regulators and the accreditation bodies, on the quality of assessments and evaluation. Yes, it is important for us to integrate technology-enabled mechanisms in the examination processes. And I'm thankful to our Honorable Prime Minister, who has recently announced the digital university. So yes, now it would be very, very important for us in digital university, as well as in online education and assessment process, to have the right mechanism of assessment. And we can definitely use the AI-based technologies of remote proctoring, so that we are able to make sure that assessment mechanism is fair, transparent, balanced, and inclusive, and is able to assess the overall, overall performance of the student in terms of knowledge, skills, and aspects of competence. Last but not the least, a recent development which has come from NAC. NAC has done an amazingly remarkable job by doing a collection and collation of the best practices of the different higher educational institutions and universities of the country, which have been accredited as A++ or A+, or they have been rated among the top universities. So these best practices will soon be finally released by NAC, so that people can see what are the best practices in the areas of assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and quality standards in higher education, for others to take inspiration and to replicate the model, so that they can become a higher educational institution and university which can be globally reckoned for delivering high quality academics, assessment, and evaluation mechanisms, and to set new benchmarks of excellence in the area of quality. So these are my opening remarks. Thank you very much, and I would love to listen to other deliberations. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving on to Dr. Anil Vashisht. Sir, your statements on the topic.
Good afternoon to all the esteemed panelists, and my compliments to Mr. Sandeep for choosing such a topic for the panel discussion, which is the role of assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and quality standard for higher educational institutions. All higher educational institutions are focusing their attention on assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and quality standards. They are doing it, but then again, it's a challenge. Challenge in the sense of what we have been seeing last 2 years, what's happening during COVID. Challenge in terms of maintaining quality in terms of teaching pedagogy, research, teachers, and the overall output. I think it is a multifaceted way to measure quality of education across many factors. Different processes systems have been designed by almost all higher educational institutions in terms of attaining those standards of assessment and accreditation. And I believe the new education policy, NEP 2020, has also developed the regulatory framework, which is much to be followed by all educational institutions if these parameters have to be attained over a period of time. The different processes, the university IQACs, the annual AQARs designed by the universities do play an important role in identifying and evaluating these parameters all through the year. So I believe the current framework suggested by NAC, NBA, and the different area-specific bodies like COA, NCTE are doing great in terms of assessment. How educational institutions would be following these parameters and attaining these level of assessment and evaluation is still a challenge, and that needs to be discussed. So these are my opening remarks. We'll have to learn from my esteemed panelists, and we'll have to answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving on to Dr. Tabriz. Sir, your statements on the topic.
Thank you, Sandeep, and let me also thank the Universal Mentors Association for inviting me for this very important program. Already mentioned by different speakers that it's a very important area to explore, that assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and quality standards. Because I'm a strong believer that the way you will do assessment, the growth will happen on the same direction. So that's why the assessment is a very important area, whether you are going to assess a particular project or particular kind of the answer scripts, or you are going to assess the student outcome or faculty outcome, and all is very important area. But the assessment should be based on the outcome that now we are following the outcome based model. And the whole idea is that how to first design and find out the outcome, what can be the outcome. And the outcome can also be go on changing, because now we are moving fast, try to sync the academics to the industry and try to see that outcomes should be industry oriented. And we have the great challenge of the employability skills and all, and the employment generation and matching with the skill changing fast in the market. So we have to also then design the curriculum in terms of the outcome-based model, and that outcome should try to sync with the what industry requires, academia should try to explore, and then assessment should be the same model. Regarding the accreditation, we know very well now there are a lot of agencies, and IRF is there, now we have the NAC, and also earlier there are a lot of the ISO 2000, and a lot of things were there, and also we have global standards. So it's always very important to ensure that what somebody is doing, and also rewarding them, and also just like honoring them, that by a certain standard set parameters by an accreditation. And but the whole idea of the accreditation is that people should try to have certain kind of benchmarking. But what is happening, because it was a tool for the excellence, because if you see NAC, if anybody seriously follow the NAC criteria, the university will become automatically excellent. But what is happening? People are instead following what is desired by the NAC. They're just moving in the documentation. They will try to just do documentation to ensure that they have achieved all these outcomes. But idea is not that. Idea is that you have to ensure the entire policy making, entire philosophy, entire system and processes to run as per the NAC requirement or an IRF requirement. So you will become automatically kind of a center of excellence. Regarding the evaluation, is very, very important to evaluate that we are now also venturing in the area of innovations, that how we can go on innovating the terms of evaluation, because ultimately the moot question is that why to evaluate. So unless and until we have set parameters and benchmarking, and we should know that how to evaluate and what to evaluate, and after the evaluation, what can be the kind of the action taken report. So we then go to next level. Regarding the quality standards, definitely we have to have the benchmarking on the quality standards. It's very subjective area to explore what can be the quality standards for different kind of kind of colleges, universities, and also the different organizations, different programs. So we must have the globally kind of the benchmark system and processes, and then we can really to match and then try to achieve what is desired. With these few words, I thank you all, and these are my opening remarks. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Now moving on to Dr. Sunil Rai. Sir, your opening remarks on the statement.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. I will join my colleagues in expressing my sincere thanks to Universal Mentor Association for bringing us all together and making us throw some light on the very important topic. I also pay my respect to all my fellow panelists. It's such an honor to be in midst of your company. Much has been talked about. All the three, obviously, assessment, accreditation, evaluation, and are actually driving quality standards. So, and much has been said by my colleagues. So it's simple for me to just say ditto. And as far as this attention is concerned, I will just make few remarks. I feel accreditation is an important aspect. So there is this, Sandeep did talk about it in the beginning, and he said, is it necessary to be on the top? And then a beautiful remark which he made was that it's easier to get into MIT than IITs. And I remember just sharing it in jest, because there'll be a lot of serious stuff in the Q&A, is that when I was appointed as a faculty at SP Jain Institute of Management, Mumbai, one of the neighbor came to, was telling, I want to meet your son, my father. So when I came, he just wanted to see, then he was a little disappointed to see that how come such an old student has joined SP Jain. So then he said, sir, have you joined SP Jain's which program? I said, no, I have not joined SP Jain for any program. I have joined there as a faculty. So that fellow literally prostrated before me. He said, sir, student itne bade the. Hum to sakshat faculty ko dekh rahe hain. So I told him, sir, it's easy to be a faculty at SP Jain than to become a student at SP Jain. So having said that, but is it important for accreditation? I think what accreditation does is that it's a surer proof of conformity to standards by way of processes, by way of achievements. There is some kind of an aversion, and this also is the belief, so what we need not be accredited and things like that. My recommendation is that one must go for all these accreditations. After all, kudos to the government systems, the way they have designed. NBA, if you have got all your programs certified, I served on the board of NBA for 3 years, so 5 years rather. So it's important that all your programs which need NBA accreditation must be accredited. So there is a sure proof you can tick that all your programs are conforming to quality. And when you get your NIRF placings, that's also a proof that your data is in order. And if these two are done, then sure, if these two are doing well, your NAC is assured that you will be at least A. And if you are at least an A with these two steps, so what I'm suggesting is NBA plus NIRF followed by NAC, you are a strong contender to get into QS 100 eventually. So one must go for accreditation, take accreditations very seriously. And what it does is, one is conformity to standards, and the second one is it upgrades the belief system. You are not A, and suddenly, I remember when my university, before my joining, so I'm not telling because I joined, university got A, but well, let me sell myself also that, okay, we got A. I could see a change in the body language of faculty, of students, of staff, everybody. So I think it adds to a belief system and esteem value. And it brings in a kind of a motivation to both the students as well as faculty. I belong to the elite group. So accreditation does beyond just for quality certifications, it brings that esteem. One must go for it. And talking about quality standards, there's two things in that. One is academic quality, which I believe will come from the faculty quality, where the way the faculty is conducting research, the way the faculty is continuously upgrading their knowledge, because we are moving at a high pace. I just before coming into this meeting, I was sharing a meeting of my deans, where I was just telling them, let's identify 6 areas where in 2025, which will become a necessity, and do we have it? And we start building the skills of the faculty in that, in teaching that. So one is faculty training, the research the faculty do, and the other aspect is about pedagogic innovation. Somebody did talk about it in the panel. We have to keep changing, because going further, when NEP is already saying that it will not be program registrations anymore, student will register to a course, and student can register to multiple universities, which means experience will play a very important. Did I get that experience when I was undergoing this particular course in this place? So student experience is also what I am bringing to the attention of the August panel. And finally, the development will only take place of student and faculty by quality research. Research is the surest way of developing yourself. And also, final piece that I'm suggesting is continued alumni performance assessment. We must keep a database to keep seeing our alumni, how they are doing in the industry, so that, it's like a dipstick test of ensuring that we are providing the quality output as we are expected to the society. These are a few of my remarks. Thank you very much for the opportunity. More in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful, panel. The other day, where we were talking about, the national education policy per se. Now, when we have known that, there can be multiple entry and multiple exits from a particular course, diploma, advanced diploma, then possibly a degree, and then a certification. So keeping that in mind, how do you think would be the levels of assessments, and what should be the framework for assessing a higher education system when you're talking about, multiple entry and multiple exits? Because again, if you look at the current curriculum that the Indian education system follows, is year one is basics, and to build to a better role, then the year two comes in. I think that's how the Indian education system has been practicing. So there has to be certain level of assessments, and what do you think would be those level, when you're looking to from the lens of the national education policy being implemented? Anybody who would like to answer this question?
Yeah, because I was the last, so let me go first this time, Sandeep. And all right, last means I was just in that sequence wise.
Yes.
All right, I think I would suggest going by the expectations of national education policy. I think we have all institutions, and definitely the ones which are being represented here on this panel, we have come of age. You don't have to worry about our infrastructure. You don't have to worry about those are all given. We have moved on, since the curriculum development, pedagogy, etc., etc. I think all institutions, in my humble view, are definitely above par. So where we could make differences, I think 3 things I'm suggesting, which the body should assess. One is research. And this research, not as a cliched statement, because it's your duty to keep on continuously adding to the body of knowledge. And if you're not doing it or not, going by Western experiences, all the great institutions, whether it is Massachusetts, Carnegie Mellon, or MIT, or Harvard in the area of business and so on and so forth, the London Business School, these are the people who had been at the forefront of research. So research is one. The second part, which after NEP has said, is a holistic development of students. His NEP is talking about it. A student should actually be a citizen who can take on any kind of a situation, who can contribute to the society in any kind of situation. And Corona was an eye-opener to that. The good news is that most of our education institutions have come good. And thanks to our ancestors, that we have got a value system that actually prepares us for Sadbhav, Sadbhavna, and Samanvay, which is what is the holistic development is the second aspect, which I think should be assessed. And finally, the experience. It's all about it. I keep saying this, that we will find it difficult to exist in the higher education space, unless we ensure that that kind of experience is provided to the students in their development, in their learning, and also to the faculty, what kind of facilities and experience we provide to the faculty to the grow. When they grow, students and faculty, the institutions will grow. So three suggestions: research, holistic development, and experience must be assessed. Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to add to Sunil sir's submission?
Sandeep, I would like to add on to what Professor Rai said. I completely agree to him. In terms of the educational institutes have already been to that particular level. So the basics have already been framed. And as I earlier said, the regulatory framework which has now been specified by the new education policy 2020 clearly highlights as to how all educational institution needs to move forward. And educational institutes, even till date, have students and have curriculum where the students can choose their own courses, can pick up from a basket of courses and can design their own degree. So NEP is an addition to that. The educational institutions have already been to that particular level. We already have the basics available to us. The curriculum is already in place. So it's only how futuristic we can be in terms of deciding and implementing the policies that has already been framed now. And I'm sure all educational institutions will be at that particular level, because Professor Rai again is right in saying COVID has actually taught us many things. Flexibility has automatically come in. So the perspective of students and faculties have automatically changed, and they have been flexible enough in terms of changing onto those systems from online to offline, and again from offline to online. And the hybrid system is here to stay. It's moving on. And I'm sure with digitization coming into place, this will further enhance the movement of learning resources. That will be from my side.
Absolutely, sir. And I think it is again very well crafted 3 points that Professor Rai had shared with us. Moving on, the other aspects of of getting accredited or maintaining the quality of an institution is the role of systems. And so what would be, according to the esteemed panelists, what would be the role of systems and processes, and what are the best practices to enhance the quality standard when you're looking at the higher education institution? Anybody who would like to go for it?
Yeah, I think I would love to address this. I think systems and processes, in fact, these two are very important and integral part of an organization. Well, we talk about PPP, PPT, people, process, and technology. So one of the best way to go ahead is to have, in UAE, there was a mandate from the regulatory body, especially the accreditation body. They used to ask for policies and procedures manual. So they wanted to have detailed policies and procedures for the functioning of every department. So what is highly recommended is to have standard operating procedures of every function. And these standard operating procedures should have well-defined processes, how the process will flow. It should define how is the technology interface, and what is the backup process, because sometimes in case if there is a technology failure, there can be a backup mechanism to fall back. So the entire processes are to be well defined, and the ERP, which we call it as enterprise resource planning, the ERP solution of the university, it should be so well structured and robust and optimally integrated with AI and machine learning and other related blockchain technologies, so that the students are able to minimize their hassles in the process of academic delivery.
whether it comes at the time of registering of their courses, or in terms of their assessments, or in terms of their placements time. So the process, the technology driven processes should be so well enabled so that the students are able to devote their maximum time in academic processes, in research, in innovation, in incubation and commercialization and publication, so that the time which they currently waste in running around from one place to another in getting approvals, all those times should get minimized by well structured processes, people, and technology. So it would enable the students to work efficiently in a well-oiled ecosystem wherein they can focus on conducting research, innovation, publication, and focus on filing patents as an outcome of their individual research efforts, and can focus on publishing their research outcomes in leading national and international journals. So that's my take on this.
Anybody who would like to add on Sir's point? Because we have another question that is, very well explained, Dr. Rana, regarding the, the system, the role of systems and processes. Now moving on, the another aspects of, system and processes are the strategic management. So how do you, or what do you think is the role of strategic management in enhancing the quality standard? So how is the question, what should be done is the question when it comes down to the strategic management part. Anybody who would like to add on it?
Okay, actually, I would like to speak on the system, process, and strategic management, because our focus should be on the student performance and also the outcome, that how after the passing out they are going to perform in the market. For that, I think now we have to focus on the individualized kind of training learning process, because the way we are going to change the system and processes, that student will be getting options to a lot of entry exit options. In that case, there are a lot of counseling is required, because what I feel because now currently our gross enrollment rate is 27%, and we are going to increase by 50% in the next 15 years. It means that now the more and more of the first generation education families will be joining the system, and then that case they require a lot of counseling and guidance, because just giving them a lot of options to have multiple entry and exit, it may sometimes end up with a lot of confusion, and also there will be no outcome, because they'll be picking and choosing courses that are ultimately not becoming expert in one area. They'll be having multiple kind of the qualifications, but not be solid qualification and expert in one area. So where I see the lot of support is required. Other thing is for the system and processes, what we have seen that in the pandemic only, in fact, 30% universities and colleges who has good infrastructure, good potential, good IT, infra and all, able to properly provide the quality education. And 70% universities and colleges, rural areas and all, they could not even provide the proper training and teaching learning process, so they were suffering. Now the question is that how we can really provide the strategic growth of the student and faculty. In that case, what we started the overall performance index process for the student, where we every year try to review their performance, what they have done in the market after the internship, and then we see how they are growing, and then we counsel them to have the individualized kind of the career planning, because everybody cannot do excellent in each area. So every student is different, and we have to then see and then provide in this kind of the training process where the skill building is required. Somebody may be suited for one area, and then if he is given 3-4 years time for plan kind of internship, strategic planning, and then again trying to make him expert in that area. For example, anybody want to become academician, and he's having the good kind of potential and also the skill sets, then we can properly refine and groom him so he can be joining some good universities. Same way somebody want to join corporate sector, then he should have some different kind of skill sets, and then we have to then train accordingly. So my point is that lot of strategic planning is required even in one particular program. For example, if you talk about law program, even for a law program, there are kind of 7-8 areas are there to make the career. Same way engineering or medical or any areas, there are a lot of options are there. So my point is that each university should have strategic planning for individualized kind of training learning process, their teaching learning process, their internships, and also to be properly planned and they have to be engaged in several activities which will be helping him to refine the skill and the career he is planning. This way, we can produce the lot of expertise, knowledge, and also try to produce the people who are going to take over the career in the industry where they are relevant and also they showcase the potential. This way, I think this area is very, very important, because now we are going to see a lot of new generation families joining the education, where a lot of support, strategic planning, system processes will help them to grow. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir, and I totally agree with you. Having said that, when we are talking about the student-centric approach, or how important it is for I think it is a open-ended, very well point raised that having multiple entry and multiple exit might also create some confusion amongst the student. So moving on, on the same topic, the next question lies that how important again it becomes for a outcome based approach to access or evaluate the higher education institution, and what are the steps taken by the institutions to focus mainly on the outcomes? Because we've all been talking about industry's involvement, that industry, that we have to have those programs where the industry accepts our students immediately or procures our students immediately. So what are the institute, first of all, what should be done, how should be done, and what is being done by the institution these days to help it? Afroz sir, if you would like to talk about
Sandeep,
this.
actually, I have prepared a talk, PowerPoint slides. If you give me that.
Sir, we might not have time, but anyways, if we can finish it up in 3-4 minutes, that would really be nice.
I have beautifully prepared a slide that will give you the whole message about artificial intelligence, that how when you go to the class and teach the students that the sun rays are coming to induce the vitamin D in your body. So the students cannot see the rays that's coming from the sun. There are so many kind of rays, infrared and ultraviolet rays are coming, but with the help of artificial intelligence, you can make these rays that the students can see, and then you can show them the skin, that how they are hitting the skin and then producing the vitamin D. So, and how then the cancer cells and the live cells that you can create with the help of artificial intelligence.
Sure, sir. So let me come back to you for the presentation. In the meanwhile, I'll after our talk we can possibly look at the presentation, and we can, in the meanwhile, I'll move to Afreen ma'am, your take on how important it is when you're talking specifically about law. It's your culture. So what do you suggest to higher education institutions, and how important or what needs to be done for the outcome based approach?
So when it comes to the outcome-based approach, so I'll just clearly mention that we've always focused on the pre-law bit, right? The pre-entrance bit, where we are assessing students on various grounds in terms of how good they are in their critical reasoning skills or logical reasoning skills. But in the US, I'll give you an example what LSAC has done. They have done certain correlated studies where the score validity has been sort of seen in terms of comparing it to the undergraduate GPA scores. So once you relate the LSAT scores with the undergraduate GPA scores, you come with a specific average, and that average gives you some sort of a conclusion as to how effective these entrance exams are, and it helps one to appreciate the social or psychological correlation studies at the end. So I haven't seen that sort of study happen somewhere in India, and I would actually encourage Indian universities to go ahead and do that you need to understand whether these pre-law assessments or any other assessment, not just catering to law, have some sort of a conclusive study at the end. Because once a student graduates, so a law school graduation, I mean, the tenure is 5 years. So a student is spending quite a half of a decade in a university, we need to understand whether that specific university is fulfilling in terms of coming up with a conclusion and correlating it to the pre-law assessment. Only then we can come to know what is the exact outcome and how they will perform post-law. Secondly, there have been various studies which we have done where we have offered critical thinking and reading skills diagnostic for students in a modified version of the LSAT to see how their performance is post law schools as well. And we've also conducted this study on the ABA law professors, the American Bar Association law professors. It's called the skill analysis studies. Now, the idea behind that is to ensure that there is some sort of an innovation or a disruption happening at every end. I mean, law as a subject anyway needs that sort of an enhancement at every stage and step, and that can only happen if we also start improving the pre-law process of assessing these students. So studies like that could encourage, and I open this platform and encourage universities to have that sort of a database ready for students. And as how Dr. Sunil Rai also mentioned, that the alumni needs to be connected in terms of what they are doing after they graduate from their universities, and then we can do a correlative studies and understand whether we were good enough in terms of creating that standardized test. So it actually begins from the preparation to enter a university, during the university, what the students perform, and post that as well. So I think that is my quick sort of a suggestion where universities and institutions like ours can work together hand in hand and come to a good correlative study and understand whether we are achieving our goal or not.
Moving on, I think wonderfully put in. So if you're looking at the university perspective, now I would like to go to Dr. Anil sir. Sir, according to you, how we are how important it has become for the outcome based approach, and what is your institution doing, if I specifically ask, to assess the students outcome based?
Thank you, Sandeep, and rightly asked question. I believe all institutions are again working for outcome-based education, and this has been again clearly specified by the accreditation bodies. They are clearly focusing their attention of how universities are doing outcome-based education, which is again a major part of how the institutes do it. And as said by Afrin also, it is very important aspects of how a student would come in, what needs to be done to the students, how students needs to be segregated in terms of their learning and performance, and finally how the evaluation would be done at the end. So when I'm talking of outcome-based education, the course outcomes, the program specific outcomes, the program specific educational objective needs to be clearly defined. And our university also, we are clearly defined those objectives, and all students along with their parents now can pick up any institution, program and course defining on how those learning objectives and outcomes have been defined. I think it's a matter of how educational institutes are interpreting it. It has to be interpreted in the right sense so that each educational institution needs to achieve that outcome-based education, so that from a student and parents perspective, it has to be clearly listed out. And a student should completely able to understand probably at the end of each course what he or she would finally see. What would be the outcome of that particular course, and whether that outcome would be achieved by that particular institution or not.
All right, sir. So again, it becomes, we all agree that it becomes really imperative, with the national education policy coming into play. When a student is doing possibly maybe entered into a university or a course only for a say diploma for a year. So how it has become really imperative that every year, every classroom has an outcome, for the student, so that it shouldn't be like the student has taken a 1-year diploma and he might not be employable. So at the end of the day, the diploma, the advanced diploma, the degree, or the professional degree has to be working towards his employment our students' employment, and I think we all do agree on it. Following it up, with another important aspect, when you're talking about the quality, becomes the role of people and staff development in enhancing the standard. So what, according to we've all been talking about training the teachers, training the professors. It is imperative to learn, relearn, unlearn. Let me rephrase it in a correct format: learn, unlearn, and relearn. So how important do you think uh, this process is, and are the faculty itself, and just the subject matter is enough for the faculty to get upgraded on, or there are various other aspects to train the staff, so that the quality of the institutions is met?
I think the subject knowledge has never been a problem, Sandeep, as far as the faculty is concerned. But I agree with you that unlearning is something which we have to do. And the first thing the teacher, as a teacher, which I keep telling my colleagues is to unlearn, is that we are not teachers anymore. So I ask them, stop teaching, continue facilitating. So we are facilitators. And so what we have to keep on continuously learning is newer ways of student engagement. Project-based learning and continuous assessments will be the two major aspects to ensure outcome-based learning and so on and so forth. And this can only be done by creating a different kind of experience in the classroom. A classroom without a classroom and a teaching without teaching is something which we need to learn.
Absolutely, sir. So one last question that I would like to ask before we move ahead and see Dr. Afrozul Haq's sir's presentation is, according to you, what are the challenges in front of higher education in reaching those quality standards? We all can answer this question according to you. Sunil sir, let's have it from you first.
I think it's as for me, it's basically the scene is set. It's basically the mindset issue, and I think what we need to correct is our mindset. Everything else will fall in place, because the scene is set is we got the best of the students anywhere one can find in the world. We got such strong knowledge base present in the country. We got such lovely teachers and such great institutions. Only thing is we have to start re-believing in ourselves that we can do it differently and we can do different things. Change of mindset.
Dr. Anil, your take on the question, sir.
I feel yes. The vision and mission of university needs to be completely defined. It has to be pretty clear to anyone who is working within that educational institutions. The objective needs to be clearly defined and how those objectives needs to be achieved. So it should be clear among right from the lower level to the high level. Anyone who is working within an educational institution of what is to be achieved and how it is to be achieved. I'm sure if everyone falls on the same platform, all educational institutions would go a long way in terms of defining themselves and also defining all the assessment, accreditation, and quality standards.
Sure, sir. Professor Rana, your take on the question, sir. What do you think is the challenge in front of higher education institution when you're looking at, improving the quality?
Well, one of the biggest challenges in front of the higher education sector per se is the time which gets invested in the process of compliance of the various regulations being from time to time by multiple regulatory bodies, because India has a very complex multi-regulatory regime. So a phenomenal time goes into the compliance with the regulatory requirements. The compliance part one, submission of data by multiple regulatory bodies and agencies and ranking bodies and accreditation bodies. So the time allocation towards compliance and towards data submission is phenomenally higher, which leaves little room towards research, innovation, incubation, commercialization, and so on. So probably what needs to be done is the need of the hour is to have maybe a standardized ERP, which gets implemented in all the universities and all the regulatory bodies have a real-time data flow, and it brings down the stress of the various higher educational institutions of reporting, compliance, and multiple other associated dimensions. So that's one challenge. Second challenge is in terms of the kind of financial muscles which different institutions have. The government institutions get a lot of financial support in form of grant and other forms, whereas the private sector bodies, they have to work on sustaining their own finances, and ultimately they are made to compete in a national ranking process. So that does not become a fair ranking process. So what is to be done is to have a level playing field in terms of ranking and accreditation of bodies on the basis of how they are doing and how they are generating the resources. So that's one part of it. Over to you.
Sure, sir. Tabrez, sir, your kind submission on the challenges front.
I
think we have to, as I mentioned,
Sandeep, I'm so sorry for the interruption. I'll have to log off. I have to make a hard stop now.
No
There
problem,
is
sir.
another session lined up, but I pay my respect to all the panelists. And
Thank you so much, sir,
giving me
for
this
your
opportunity.
time.
I would have much loved to continue, but it is planned like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a great
Okay,
day.
Sandeep, I think you were asking me that what I said in my earlier statement, that we have to focus on individualized kind of learning process, because if you focus on at individual level, because everybody has inbuilt kind of skill, inbuilt innovation, creativity, and we on building, and then he can become the specialist person or maybe expert in that area. So now, because also we can use the AI and all these technologies, and also we give them chance to, they can pick and choose what they want to be learned, and then we ensure that learning is happening. And in this way, I think we can bring excellence in each individual, and then that person will be excellent, and then will be doing great if we go to the market. So the focus will be on the innovation, creativity, innovation in pedagogy, and also a lot of focus on the employability skill. That is my take on.
Afreen ma'am, coming to you. What do you think is the challenge with the Indian, in front of Indian universities to, to reach the quality standard?
A quick response from my own experience, because I've had a chance to even teach at the universities here in India. I think the biggest challenge we face as professionals was that we needed to enhance the continuous legal education system, which Professor Madhavan Menon had really sort of was a torchbearer of that specific initiative in the legal profession. So I think whether it's legal or any other courses which the universities offer, continuous legal education is the need of the hour. We need to revamp, we need to reinvent ourselves as teachers, because trust me, as Professor Rai also said, that students are way smarter now in terms of having access to education. We are more of facilitators rather than teachers. So the idea is to ensure that we upskill ourselves at every point, and some of the institutions world over have taken that initiative and gone ahead and given that professional training to the current teachers. So I think that is something which is definitely the need of the hour, that the Indian universities and professors take that initiative for continuous legal education as well. Thank you.
Absolutely, ma'am. Any other last submissions before we move to Afrozul, sir? Can we try to sum this up? I think we have already exceeded the time.
So Sandeep, also I have a meeting. I have to leave. Sorry.
No problem, sir. I can understand that.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you
Thank
all.
you so much, sir. Dr. Anil, any last comments on the topic?
I think we can go ahead with the professor's hard presentation.
Sure, sir. Professor Afroz, sir, kindly.
Sandeep, please tell me where I have to add the PowerPoint slide.
Sir, you can simply click on share screen.
Share screen, okay.
So we only have 2 to 3 minutes left for this panel to end. So requesting you to really.
It is showing me another window, which is an iPhone, iPad, whiteboard, desktop 1. All Zoom, share your screen. Allow Zoom. Yes, okay. How to?
So let's do one thing. Let me ask our backend team. So let the panel get ended. We have another panel to be starting at another 5-7 minutes. We will request our backend team to get back in touch after the sessions are over to get to help you out with your presentation. If that
When it
is
can
okay.
be? What time
So
it can be?
possibly in the evening, if that is okay.
Okay, just please ask to send me a message. Somebody can, or Shreya can send me a message.
Sure, we'll do that, sir. We'll do
Okay,
that.
thank you.
All right.
You.
Thank you so much for this amazing panel that has been there talking about
Pleasure.
the need of the hour.
Pleasure.
Talking about the role of assessments, accreditation, the importance of it. We've heard, some of the stalwarts of the education, higher education sector talking about, what needs to be done, how needs to be done. Uh, Although there are some part of the education fraternity that still feels that accreditations and quality standards can only be used for marketing gimmicks. I think it's not that. It's important to showcase that you're doing a good work, and I think we're all, specifically when you're talking about the higher education sector, we're doing tremendous work in terms of skilling and helping the students to reach out to the new heights. So it's been a wonderful panel. Thank you, Anil sir. Thank you, Afreen ma'am. Thank you, Professor Dr.
Good job,
Rana,
Sandeep.
Dr. Afrozak, for joining us for this amazing panel discussion.
Yeah, Afreen and Sandeep, both very nice job.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been a wonderful panel discussion to join in. Just a small request to all you wonderful speakers: do support our partners, do support our initiators. So if you want us to keep on bringing such amazing panels, you have to support our partners and spend at least 10-15 minutes with our partners. We have already shared with you the links. So a humble request: kindly do visit our partners Zoom link for their interaction.
Sandeep, Afreen, where you are
useful.
based? Where you gentlemen are based?
So we are based in Delhi.
Which university or institution?
Sir, I'm the founder of Universal Mentors Association, and Afreen ma'am is heading the director. She's the director of LSAC. I request a backend team to we can stop the